However, as I think has been fairly evident over the last 24 to 48 hours, there are some fairly deep divisions on the other side of politics, and we've seen some quite extraordinary scenes, including a struggle for leadership of the Liberal Party over this issue. And it's important, I think, in this context, Mr Speaker, that we consider some of the arguments that have been mounted against taking action on climate change and to be clear about what some of these arguments actually involve. We've heard, of course, the argument that this might be some left-wing conspiracy, that the international climate scientists have been engaged in some form of conspiracy that will take us down some left-wing governance path. But there's also been advanced an argument, Mr Speaker, put forward by Lord Monckton, a former advisor to Margaret Thatcher, that the international negotiations are in fact a conspiracy to establish world government. Now, Lord Monckton has argued that a new global treaty on climate change would effectively mean that nation-states sign away their sovereignty to a new United Nations world government. This has been seriously posited. Lord Monckton has argued that the aim is for the UN to have the power to directly intervene in the financial, the economic, the tax and the environmental affairs of all nations that signed the global agreement. Now, Lord Monckton, only about a month or so ago, I think it was, made the following warning to American citizens, that in the next few weeks, this is to quote Lord Monckton, in the next few weeks, unless you stop it, your President will sign your freedom, your democracy and your prosperity away forever. So Lord Monckton's positing a fairly serious conspiracy theory there. So this is a theory, Mr Speaker, that climate change is a plot to destroy national sovereignty and to establish world government. That's essentially what the argument is. Now, during the second reading debates, Mr Speaker, there's been a few observations about this, and I'll just briefly avert to a couple of the issues that have been raised. One contributor has indicated that the international negotiations, and I quote, effectively give complete power over the Australian economy to a committee of unelected UN carbon regulators. Another contribution in the Senate had this to say: in Cyber Australia right now, there is a growing groundswell of disaffected people. I think probably up to 1 million people have been listening to Lord Monckton. One other contribution, that the aim of the Copenhagen draft treaty is to set up a sort of transnational government on a scale the world has never seen. Let's just have a look at this contention, Mr Speaker. What this is seriously arguing is that the majority of world leaders, people such as President Barack Obama, Angela Merkel, the Chancellor of Germany, Gordon Brown, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, amongst others, are in some form of international conspiracy to cede their national sovereignty and establish world government, assumedly under the guidance of the UN, and that the vehicle for this great goal is the international negotiations for a treaty to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Now, this is the most bizarre, absurd, ridiculous contention that one could imagine being posited in this debate, and yet it gets an airing.